The year is 490 BC. Picture the sun rising over the Aegean Sea, casting long shadows across a narrow plain in Greece. This is Marathon, a seemingly insignificant stretch of land destined to become a battleground that would echo through history. Here, a clash of civilizations was about to unfold, a confrontation between the might of the Persian Empire and the fierce independence of the Greek city-states. The outcome of this battle would decide not just the fate of Greece, but the course of Western civilization itself. For on this day, a relatively small force of Athenian hoplites, heavily outnumbered, would face the formidable Persian army. Their courage and sacrifice would become a beacon of inspiration for centuries to come. The stakes could not have been higher. The Persian Empire, under the iron fist of King Darius I, had set its sights on conquering all of Greece. Darius, ruler of a vast empire stretching from Egypt to India, was not accustomed to resistance. He saw the Greek city-states as easy prey, ripe for conquest. The Persians had a reputation for ruthlessness, their armies vast and intimidating. Yet, the Greeks were known for their fierce independence and their skill in warfare. They were fighting for their homes, their families, and their way of life. The coming battle was about more than just land or power. It was a clash of ideologies. The Persians represented a vast, centralized empire, seeking to impose its will on its conquered subjects. The Greeks, on the other hand, cherished their individual city-states, each with its own distinct identity and government. This fundamental difference in worldview made the conflict at Marathon a fight not just for territory, but for the very soul of a civilization. The stage was set for an epic confrontation. The fate of Greece, and perhaps the future of Western civilization, hung in the balance. The hot, dusty air of Marathon was thick with anticipation as two vastly different armies prepared to collide. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe to emgotvhistory warfare for more epic tales from history. To truly grasp the magnitude of the battle about to unfold at Marathon, we need to understand the imposing shadow cast by the Persian Empire. Under Darius I, it was a force unlike any the world had seen before. Stretching from modern-day Turkey in the west to the Indus River in the east, the Persian Empire was a melting pot of cultures, languages, and peoples, all bound together under Darius's iron rule. The Persians were renowned for their military prowess. Their armies were vast, boasting soldiers recruited from every corner of their empire. These warriors were well-equipped and disciplined, trained to fight with a variety of weapons and tactics. The Immortals, the elite fighting force of the Persian army, were particularly feared. Clad in distinctive armor and wielding deadly spears and bows, they were a force to be reckoned with on any battlefield. Darius, a shrewd and ambitious ruler, had spent years consolidating his power and expanding his empire. He had crushed rebellions, subjugated neighboring kingdoms, and established a system of governance that kept his vast territories under control. His campaigns had brought him immense wealth and prestige, making him one of the most powerful rulers in the world. From Darius's perspective, the Greek city-states were an annoyance, a collection of squabbling entities that dared to defy his authority. He had already sent envoys demanding their submission, symbolized by the offering of earth and water as tokens of surrender. Most Greek cities, cowed by the might of Persia, had reluctantly acquiesced. However, Athens and Sparta, two of the most prominent city-states, refused. In their defiance, they lit the fuse for the conflagration that was about to engulf Greece. The Persian invasion of Greece was not merely a distant threat, it was a brutal reality. Before setting their sights on Marathon, the Persians under the command of Datis and Artaphernes had already unleashed their fury upon the city of Eretria on the island of Euboea. Eretria, like Athens, had dared to defy Darius and support the Ionian Greeks in their revolt against Persian rule. The Persian attack on Eretria was swift and merciless. After a 6-day siege, the Persians breached the city walls, unleashing a wave of destruction upon the hapless inhabitants. Eretria was sacked and burned, its temples looted, and its citizens either slaughtered or sold into slavery. The once proud city was left a smoldering ruin, a stark reminder of the Persian army's ruthlessness and a chilling portent of what awaited Athens if Marathon were to fall. The destruction of Eretria sent shockwaves throughout Greece. It was a clear message from Darius. Defiance would be met with swift and brutal retribution. The news of Eretria's fate reached Athens, casting a pall over the city. The Athenians knew they were next. The Persian army, flushed with victory and eager for plunder, was sailing towards their shores. The time for diplomacy was over. It was time to prepare for war. The Athenians, though renowned for their naval prowess, were acutely aware of the numerical superiority of the Persian army. They had witnessed firsthand the devastation wrought upon Eretria. They knew that to stand any chance against the invaders, they would need to choose their battleground carefully and leverage every advantage they could muster. Their gaze fell upon the plain of Marathon, a narrow stretch of land where their hoplites, heavily armed infantrymen, could potentially negate the Persian advantage in cavalry. The looming threat of invasion forced the Greek city-states to confront their own internal divisions. For centuries they had squabbled amongst themselves, engaging in petty conflicts and vying for regional dominance. However, the Persian menace forced them to recognize their shared heritage and the existential threat they faced. They realized that their survival depended on setting aside their differences and presenting a united front against the invaders. Athens, facing the full brunt of the Persian attack, appealed to the other Greek city-states for assistance. Their pleas for help were met with a mixed response. Some cities, cowed by the Persian threat, chose to remain neutral, unwilling to risk their own security in what seemed like a hopeless struggle. Others, motivated by old grudges or fearing retribution, actively sided with the Persians, bolstering their already formidable forces. However, there were some who heeded Athens' call to arms. The Spartans, renowned for their martial prowess and disciplined warriors, pledged their support, albeit with a delay due to religious obligations. The small city-state of Plataea, ever loyal to the Athenian cause, committed its entire army of 1,000 men, a gesture of solidarity that would never be forgotten by the Athenians. The Athenian assembly, in a momentous decision, granted command of their forces to Miltiades, a seasoned general with first-hand experience fighting the Persians. Miltiades, exiled from his native Chersonese after a clash with the Persians, was eager to face his old adversaries and defend his adopted city. He understood the Persian way of war and possessed the strategic acumen to counter their numerical superiority. Under Miltiades' leadership, the Athenians and their allies prepared for the inevitable confrontation. They knew they were facing daunting odds, but they were determined to fight for their freedom and their way of life. The spirit of defiance burned brightly in their hearts, fueled by a love for their homeland and a belief in their cause. They would make the Persians pay dearly for every inch of Greek soil. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe to Emgotvhistory Warfare for more epic tales of history.